Creepercast, episode 45. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Creepercast with Jeff and Jason. I'm Jason, an amazing host, and I'm here with Jeff, who is still a despicable human being. How you doing, Jeff?
I'm doing great at being a despicable human being. Are we live?
Yes, we are.
Wow. We don't do that very often, or at least we don't tell people.
We tend not to let it out ahead of time.
It just so happens that I quickly Facebooked it.
Oh, well, thank you. That helps a lot, actually.
Yeah, of course, I Facebooked and said we were going to start in 5 minutes, but hey, you know, if for those of you that will be late, you won't know anything we just said, so it doesn't matter to you. How are we doing tonight, Jason?
You know, I'm actually doing pretty good myself. Let's see, I've got a few potential interviews lined up for the Creepercast. We've got our interview with Ryan Levin and Jack Perez. I've been emailing with them, and they've kind of come up with a tentative date that they can possibly sit down and chat with us. And I also have another interview that I set up with the horror film fight or film... I don't know what else to call it.
Wars?
A film fight that's taking place in Portland on Halloween. So I've been emailing with him. Hopefully we can get that up before they go. And if you're in the Portland area, yeah, definitely check that out. I can't give you any information right now. We'll have it in the show notes because I don't have it in front of me. But that's how I'm doing. What are you? How are you?
Well, you know, it's the same old, same old. Actually, I just finally got around to doing some writing, because I work all the time and finally found like half a day to do some writing. So those of you who follow us on Facebook will notice that I did a top 5 extreme sex scenes, and 2 of them happen to have been from zombie movies. So I figure everybody's got to love that, right? Zombie sex.
There is nothing as good as zombie sex.
That's what I was thinking, especially when I realized that those 2 rated pretty high on my list of extreme sex scenes. And extreme sex scenes are, of course, those that are considered to be pretty crazy, pretty outrageous, things that are probably impossible. You know, things like that. And like, you know, things that are on the list are things like, you know, just throw them out there, like, oh, remember Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Oh,
yeah, definitely.
Or Crank.
Yep.
Yep, yeah, things like that. That's what made the list. And of course, a couple of zombie movies made the list. Like how could I leave out Dead Alive? I mean, it's not possible.
No, it's not.
Especially when you take into consideration the fact that there was a baby born like 2 minutes after they even had sex.
Yeah.
Now, if that isn't a public service message about using protection during zombie sex, I don't know what else is.
Okay. I'm just going to leave it at that.
All right. Yeah, I kind of figured I lost you a long time ago. Anyway, you quit paying attention.
Oh, I stop paying attention to you whenever I get the chance.
Yeah, I've noticed. Well, you're forgetting that we both have video on each other now. So I saw the faraway look pop into your eyes, and then you started like clicking at something or messing with your dials and whatever. Anyway, we do have a show planned, and this is like, you know, I've called this our 3 weeks of Halloween spectacular editions.
Right. This is week 1.
This would be week 1. That is true, and we decided we're not going to take this very seriously while we're at it, and we're going to talk about.
Ever take anything seriously?
I think there are times we do, but sometimes we take it too seriously and get mad because other people take too seriously, which is really confusing.
Right.
But this time we definitely aren't taking it very seriously because we have things on the list. These are must-see movies for your Halloween celebration.
All right.
Yeah. And then I'm going to cough and choke in the middle. And these are things that you probably will not see on your Fear Festival movies, like on AMC and such. But some of them, maybe you will. I mean, I don't know. What do we got? We got Ghostbusters.
We do. We have we got Ghostbusters. We've got Poltergeist, and we have the 1990 version of The Haunting, not to be confused with the original Haunting.
Right. And
or a Haunting in Connecticut, or anything else that has Haunting in the title.
Right? Yeah. Like there's like 500 of them, and they're all pretty much the same movie. Anyway, what did I call this? Our, getting in touch with our spiritual side or something?
Yes, you did.
This is what this episode is about ghosts. So where do we want to begin, Jason?
I say we go right to what I consider the ultimate ghost movie of 1984, and that would be Ghostbusters.
Yep, definitely the most ultimate of 1984, if not of all of them.
So I'll play the trailer and we'll get into the movie.
Excellent.
Ghosts.
Hello, Ghostbusters.
They're real.
You do?
They're mean.
You have?
They're here.
Actor 1!
Ghostbusters.
Hey, anybody see a ghost?
They catch the ghost that won't stay dead. They're armed. They're dangerous.
Try to imagine all life as you know it stopping instantaneously and every molecule in your body exploding at the speed of light.
All right, that's bad.
I would say so.
Okay. All right, important safety
Sounds
tip.
fun to
Thanks,
me.
Igor.
They're professionals.
It's a Saturday night.
I'm the chairman of the largest paranormal removal company in America. Did you see it?
They're all that stands between you and the end of the world.
The city is headed for a disaster of biblical proportion. Real wrath of God type stuff. Exactly. Fire and brimstone coming down from the sky. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria. Your girlfriend lives in the corner penthouse of Spook Central.
You want this body?
Is this a trick question?
Got your stick? Hold! Heat 'em up! Smoke! Make 'em hard! Ready!
Ghostbusters. Starring Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Sigourney Weaver, Harold Ramis, Rick Moranis. Coming to save the world this summer. Ghostbusters.
We came, we saw, we kicked it.
Ass.
Yes, we did. All right, your favorite Ghostbuster?
My favorite has to be Egon.
See, I was gonna go there.
Oh,
Damn it!
damn
I
it.
gotta pick somebody else. I
Sorry,
gotta pick somebody else. Now.
You gotta pick someone else.
All right, I'm gonna go with the one that everybody expects me to go for, and that's Dr. Venkman.
Dr. Venkman. Okay, so Ghostbusters, Peter Venkman, Ray Stantz, and Egon Spangler are three scientists at Columbia University. Although they don't specifically say it's Columbia University because Columbia University wouldn't let them use its name. But we all know it's Columbia University. It's in New York. Come on. When their grant expires for paranormal investigation, the guys are fired and go into business on their own as paranormal extermination company called Ghostbusters. Their first customer is a cello player named Dana Barrett, who's scared out of her apartment on the 22nd floor of a high-rise in Central Park West. It seems that Dana's neighbor, Louis Tully, is also being affected by strange happenings in the apartment. Armed with proton packs, the Ghostbusters become widely popular, and they are joined by Winston Zedmore, who is my second favorite, who is looking for a job with good pay. That's the only reason. Overzealous environmental agency agent Walter Peck, also known as Pecker, thinks the Ghostbusters are frauds and has them put in jail. Peck is forced to believe in ghosts when New York City is put under siege by an ancient Sumerian god named Gozer, the Gozerian, who is channeled through the apartment building that Dana and Louis lived in. And the mayor has no choice but to let the Ghostbusters out to face Gozer. And a big giant marshmallow.
And yes, it's true. This man has a small pecker.
Cats and dogs living together. Mass hysteria.
Some of the best lines ever written.
Oh, yeah. You know, the best part is I watched Ghostbusters so much growing up and now that when I actually watch the movie, though I can't necessarily quote lines off the top of my head, I can anticipate the lines that are coming up and say them as they're actually happening, which drives my wife and anybody else that's watching it with me nuts.
Or say them just before. That's what I have a habit of doing. Or mouth them along with them, so that because you think you're not being rude by doing that, but they're looking at you instead of the movie, and yeah.
Now, what's great about this film is that, one, it was written in 3 days by Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis.
Yes, of course.
Quite literally, they went and told the studios that they had it written and it's in the can, or it's ready to go, and they got the green light, and they hadn't even put pen to paper at that point. So they locked themselves in Harold Ramis's basement for 3 days writing the script to it. And pretty much the rough draft is what got shot, and they did a lot of the writing and editing.
That's true, yeah. And then and somehow it became a great big hit just from locking these two guys into a room. But come on, it's Dan Aykroyd and Harold Ramis.
Yes.
It makes total sense. It also spawned a sequel.
It spawned a sequel. Supposedly, there's a third one that is in the works right now.
Yes, and I'm kind of interested because it's a next generation type story.
Really, I couldn't imagine them going anywhere else besides Next Generation, because I mean, not that they're that old, but Bill Murray, I've seen some of his later movies. I can't imagine him running around with a proton pack on.
No. In fact, and Dan Aykroyd and Bill Murray and Harold Ramis are, of course, the only of the original people that have signed on. So, and
they were able to get Lewis back.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. I can't think. Where are you, IMDb? Rick Moranis.
Oh, okay.
And
well,
Rick
cool,
Moranis,
he hasn't done anything. He hasn't done anything in a long time. So
right, he actually, after the Honey, I Did Whatever to the Kids.
Part 5, yeah.
He said that he wasn't going to act again, and so that was the big hang-up, and they were able to get him to come back on for this one. Now, here's some interesting tidbits about the film. The role of Louis Tully was originally written for John Candy. And Peter Venkman was originally written for John Belushi. And when Belushi didn't sign on, Belushi died. John Candy didn't sign on. And let's see. According to Ivan Reitman, oh yeah, by the way, it's directed by Ivan Reitman. And Harold Ramis in the DVD commentary, the original rough draft of the movie, the story was going to take place in the future, that there would be teams of Ghostbusters like there are paramedics and firefighters, thus explaining the Ghostbusters HQ being at a firehouse.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I've always said that if actually I have a concept idea for my for zombie killers that is basically a fire department, because who else are you going to call to take care of your zombies?
Me. I would love to. That's why I can't wait for the zombie apocalypse. I'm gonna start myself a zombie extermination team.
That is an awesome idea, and I can't wait to write the movie about that. But right now we're talking about Ghostbusters. Right. When it gets to the news, though, I do have some zombie survival news.
Okay. Some other stuff. Gozer was originally going to be played by Paul Rubens. Pee Wee Herman himself.
Who was going to play the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man?
I don't know. Sandra Bernhard was originally offered the role of Janine and turned it down.
Oh, thank God.
The original version for Ecto-1, that would be the Ectomobile, flying out of Ghostbuster it was going to fly and come out of the Ghostbusters HQ. But Ivan Reitman suggested that it would be better to show how the team got started rather than later on in their careers, which helped out with Ghostbusters 2, because we find out at the beginning of Ghostbusters 2 that at the end of Ghostbusters 1, after they blew off the top 13 stories of a New York skyrise, they got sued by every single department and person in New York City and basically went under.
Yep.
The Stay Puft Marshmallow Man was originally supposed to come out of the water next to the Statue of Liberty. to help give it a little bit of size, but the scene was too hard to shoot. It took 45 hours to render 1 second of the proton packs. And since they were under the gun to this isn't anything in front of me. This is me remembering stuff. Since they were under the gun for getting the movie out on time, they actually cut out a lot of scenes with the proton packs and chopped those scenes that they did have down, simply because they didn't have the time to do all that rendering.
That's cool. Though I mean, it's sad because we missed out on so much proton stuff. But then I'm thinking of what they can do with the new movie.
Oh, I know.
I also have a theory then, of course, of why they would do a new movie, or why Ramis and Aykroyd and Murray would be so intent on being as involved as possible, is because this way they are totally avoiding the remake.
One scene that was cut from the final film was a model's mink coat coming to life while on the runway. Now, you will notice, though, if you remember Ghostbusters 2, that happened to a woman when she stepped over the ooze that was coming out of the ground, and her mink coat got turned to life and ran away. The exterior scenes of the HQ was filmed at the Hook and Ladder No. 8 firehouse in the Tribeca section of New York. The inside of the firehouse and where the Ghostbusters sign and photos were taken with the cast and crew. Bakeman mentions a time when Spengler tried to drill a hole in his head, and Spengler responds that would have worked if you hadn't stopped me, was actually ad-libbed. And there's a lot. The scene with Louis Tully when he's having you remember the party that he's having? Yeah. Where he's telling people, talking about how he got like so much salmon and stuff like that. That was actually done all in one take with the camera following him around, and he ad-libbed the entire scene.
Awesome. Well, you are talking. You do have a movie full of comedians, and one of their things is ad-lib. So it makes sense, and it worked brilliantly.
All right. So what do you think? Got anything?
No. The only thing I was actually going to say about it is we agreed before there wasn't a whole lot to say about this except for how awesome the movie is. Right. And it put so many things into the mainstream. Unfortunately, I think I can blame Ghostbusters for Ghost Hunters, but
yeah. And if there's any fans out there of Ghost Hunters, we apologize because we hate them. Except for the fact that I really want to try it myself. Because I don't believe them at all. I don't believe in ghosts personally, but I don't believe them so much that I want to actually be there with my own stuff.
Yeah.
Just to see.
Is it that you don't believe in them, or that you ain't afraid of no ghost?
Both.
Oh, okay.
Now zombies. No. Zombies are real.
Yeah. Well, and if they aren't now, they will be.
Yes.
We wouldn't have so many movies about them if they weren't.
But yeah, ghosts. But like I say, that's the hard thing for me when it comes to Ghostbusters or Ghost Hunters, is that you have to actually believe in ghosts and believe in an afterlife, and I don't believe in an afterlife, so therefore I can't believe in ghosts.
That's true. Well, we won't get into philosophical talking here. Now, the one thing that I was going to get into then is how does this match with anything else we've talked about? I mean, it's. Obviously, we talk about scary, gross, whatever, and this had a little bit of everything. I think, though. I mean, it wasn't like it was scary, much like "Are You Afraid of the Dark" was scary.
It was. I remember first seeing this when I was little, and actually being afraid of it. Now, the scene at the beginning that takes place in the New York Library, where they all run out, that was actually a fairly scary scene.
Yeah, especially when the librarian turns around and goes, "Shh."
Yeah. I mean, it was awesome. It was scary. I loved that scene. The great thing about Ghostbusters is how they were able to actually take real paranormal and what's it called? Not psychology, parapsychology. And bring it into the mainstream. They mix so much with this movie because, first of all, they have the comedy with it. Number two, they have the parapsychology with it of ghosts and everything else that happens like that. You have history because the demons and stuff that they actually talk about, Sumerian and Babylonian and stuff, are real actual believed demons in them times.
Mythology. Real mythology.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then science, because basically this is going to parallel our next movie that we're going to talk about, which is Poltergeist, and how two different ways of getting rid of ghosts completely. This uses a scientific viewpoint of being able to trap ghosts. And remember, in order for them to trap ghosts, you have to believe in what's known as ectoplasm.
Mm-hmm.
And with Poltergeist, it's an exorcism.
Right.
This house is clean.
The light, Carol Ann. Stay away from the light. Speaking of Poltergeist.
You want to head into Poltergeist?
I was gonna actually, well, and I can use this as part of a segue as well, is that actually thanks to movies like Ghostbusters and Poltergeist, which actually came before it, it was movies like that actually drew my attention to the, I wanted to believe. I'm a molder when it comes to the parapsychology world.
Okay, so I'm Scully.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay.
But there was once a time where I actually thought I was going to be a parapsychologist and had actually visited Loyola University and had written many papers on especially poltergeist phenomena was one of my favorites, because there are so many I want to say there's so much mythology attached, and then there's so much quote unquote scientific proof attached to poltergeist activity. And so this next movie actually has a nice little spot in my heart, because there was once a time where I thought I was going to chase after these creatures myself.
Well, I think with that, let's head on to Poltergeist, the movie.
The house looks just like the one next to it. And the one next to that. And the one next to that. A young couple live in it.
Give Ken a kiss.
You are so obnoxious.
With their 3 children.
Poor Ken. Honey, chew each bite 10 times.
And something more.
They're here.
Sweetie, remember last night? Do you remember when you woke up and you said you were here?
Uh-huh.
Well, who did you mean? Who's here?
TV people.
Something's funny going on here next door. Something,
We were wondering if maybe you had experienced any disturbances lately.
what kind of disturbances?
I don't know what hovers over this house. I've never sensed anything like it.
That thing is in there with my baby!
They're hundreds.
Now Steven Spielberg crosses a frightening new threshold into a world within our own. Its form is revealed.
What is it?
Its focus is clear. And the games are over. Poltergeist. It knows what scares you.
Now, Poltergeist is recorded by Tobe Hooper. It stars Jo Beth Williams, Heather O'Rourke, and Craig T. Nelson. The Craig T. Nelson.
And produced by Steven Spielberg. Now, is there anything paranormal that Steven Spielberg hasn't created that hasn't influenced everything we know?
I can't think of anything.
Yeah, exactly. There's something about that guy. Those
So-
little Jewish guys, I tell you.
Do we really need to go into a synopsis? Because really, the trailer had that.
The trailer had all the synopsis, so I don't think we need to really go into that. Let's do a quick discussion of the movie and how we feel about it.
Okay, first of all, I'm going to say the phrase "they're here" is probably one of the creepiest phrases in all of horror history.
Especially spoken from from a very little girl with pure white hair.
I was gonna say you have to mention the pure white hair.
Yeah. And it's also one of the most, and it's also amongst the most repeated horror movie phrases
now,
ever.
One thing, Heather O'Rourke, who plays the little girl, basically made her name on Poltergeist. She did some other stuff, some TV stuff in the 80s, and her last film was at Poltergeist 3 in 1988.
Where she died.
Yeah.
Wasn't it during the making of that she had died?
Yes.
And it was some kind of disease associated with her death. But I can't remember exactly. But of course, I was originally going to go, didn't she die during the making of Poltergeist 3 and haunt the set so that they thought a real poltergeist was there and 90% of the effects was real? And
No, there is some stories that I heard, though, that I don't believe it was Poltergeist 1. I believe it was Poltergeist 2. That they had, rather than using props for the skeletons, somebody actually got real cadavers.
Oh, nice.
And used them to save money. And strange things were happening on the set.
That's awesome. Well, the movie kind of exploits that concept, though.
Right.
Of strange things just happening around them. And so everything that happened was supposed to be kind of like accidentally caught on camera. And they had spread a rumor, maybe it's the third one I'm thinking of, where they had spread a rumor that a real poltergeist was haunting the set.
Right, yeah. So now here, like I said, this is the flip-flop from Ghostbusters, and that's why we sandwich these two together. Is you have Ghostbusters who got rid of ghosts using science. Now there are scientists in Poltergeist, but they're not the ones that actually get rid of that tame the ghosts or get rid of the ghosts. Although they never really did at the end.
No, if they did, they wouldn't have had a second one or a third one. But.
Right. But it's actually the old woman that does it at the end. So all of these scientists, basically all they can do is observe. They can't actually do anything.
Yeah, and this one also plays on a lot of the suburban tales of houses buried on Indian burial grounds.
Right.
And it's because of that these poltergeists are attacking. And then of course you have the creepy preacher that's going from door to door. I mean, that's something these are all tales that have existed for quite a while and still do. I mean, how many of us are not creeped out when Jehovah's Witnesses show up?
I'm not going to go there.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said that. I don't know. But anyway, but things like that, especially the Indian stuff, that's what I find the most interesting about it. Is it was one of the first films to really exploit the concept of an Indian burial ground causing some kind of a paranormal phenomena, which is a standard in poltergeist phenomena. Is that
well, that's a question I want to ask you, because as far as my understanding of poltergeist is, it's actually a manifestation of people.
Right, it is. Well, poltergeist, the most common one, the term originates from Germany. It was coined by a German psychologist who had attached the concept of a spirit attaching itself to a little girl more than any other, usually during puberty, because that's when they're the most moody and everything, and that's what attracts the ghost, and that's why they cause things based on their hosts, if you will, mood.
Okay.
And that's what causes all the phenomena. And then it's been later to say that it's more of an ESP type thing that the little girl has, or telekinesis.
Right.
That the
that's
little
what
girl
I
has.
thought.
Yeah, they later tried to say it was that. But
so what you're saying is, if they would have just given this girl, Caroline, some antidepressants or something, or some mood stabilizers, the ghost probably would have went away.
That's why Valium was so popular during the 50s. They'd start giving it to the girls at 13 so that they'd be hooked by the time they were 21, and it'd be easy to keep them subdued. And you wouldn't have to deal with broken lamps.
So, by the way, the phrase "they're here" was voted as number 69 for the best film quotes by the American Film Institute.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Yeah, I can see that.
Drew Barrymore was
scene
also considered as for the role of Carol Ann. I'm glad she didn't get it.
Yeah, because I like thinking of her as the Firestarter girl. And I wouldn't have liked having to think of her as the Firestarter / Poltergeist girl. My favorite scene was the tequila worm.
Oh yes, right at the end.
Yeah. Yeah, it was a fantastic scene. And then this movie too, one of the other things that I like about it is, much like Amityville Horror, destroying the house does not destroy the phenomena.
Right. And now I want to talk a little bit about this the urban legend though that you talked about of the burial ground, because this came up. This was 1982, and if you in the 70s and in the 80s, we had this big boom of people escaping the cities for suburbia.
Right.
And that's when you literally had Suburbans popping up everywhere. And
don't stop. It's just my phone. Calm down.
Okay, for a second, I'm like, what? Ghosts coming through the lines.
Yeah. Poltergeists.
And so anyway, this and Pet Sematary both kind of exploit that idea. Although Pet Sematary, it wasn't built on the Indian burial ground, but it was the Indian burial ground that brought people back to life.
Right. Well, and really with Poltergeist 2, though, it wasn't actually, as we discovered later, and I don't think I'm ruining anything by giving, these little tidbits away, because it doesn't really take away from the story and the scare factor involved, is that we found out later that it wasn't really an Indian burial ground that was the problem. It was it was a mass suicide ground.
Right. Yeah,
so,
basically it was Jonestown.
Yeah, yeah. And so the idea that ghosts would be floating around in that area kind of makes sense.
Well, yeah, because then it adds to the idea that if you die from a traumatic event that wasn't of your doing, and I'm not talking a car accident, I'm talking a murder or a mass suicide, even Jonestown itself, there were a couple survivors, people that were able to, get away at the time, that said that Jim Jones, that many people didn't voluntarily drink the Kool-Aid. They were forced to at gunpoint.
Right, which therefore a poltergeist phenomena or a ghost phenomena hanging around the area would make sense.
Right. Now, this also lends to the idea, though, of ghosts staying in an area rather than occupying a house. The general idea with ghosts is that they occupy a house or they occupy an enclosed area. That if you go outside the house, you're safe. Poltergeist kind of breaks that down, because it doesn't matter whether it's inside the house, outside the house. In fact, with Poltergeist, and we find out by Poltergeist 3 that it actually will follow you.
Yeah, it attaches to people.
Right.
And that's actually a ghost thing that has been further developed since then. I mean, the most common being like with The Grudge.
Oh, yeah.
The most common one, or the one that people would recognize today, as the ghost isn't just limited to a specific area. It attaches to the person and then follows you everywhere.
In a lot of these haunted stories where it is a haunted house, I often wondered, why don't you just burn down the house?
But they've done that. Like they did in Poltergeist.
Well, they didn't burn it.
Well, the house supposedly burned down and then enfolded into the ground and all that, and yet...
Okay,
everything continued. Amityville Horror, they burned down the house, and the house was back the next film. So,
yeah,
and if you believe the story is true, which at this point even the author has said he made 90% of it up of the book
of Amityville Horror.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
it was based very loosely on a true story.
Right, but if you were to believe everything he said, that house not only just burned down and came back, but I mean, it came back the next day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the stories behind Ouija boards. You burn one up, it's going to be back in your closet the next day. So that idea, the whole burning it down, doesn't really work. Now, though, the interesting thing that you had brought up was this idea of exorcism. We were talking about scientists before with Ghostbusters trapping them in the not crossing the beams.
Ecto-containment unit. Yes.
Not crossing the beams, because that would be very bad. And putting them in the ecto-containment unit. In this case, there isn't. What the ghost does is it attaches itself to the person. So they have to basically do an exorcism. Now we also have to make distinguish the difference between the ghost that's attached itself to the human being and what we would normally know to be associated with exorcisms, demons, habitating a human body.
Right. Yes.
Which are not the same thing, and yet it's treated
well
similarly.
And that's the question, when it comes to having an exorcism in a house, because the whole point of an exorcism in a house now with ghosts. Now let's go down the road of the TV show Supernatural. In order to get rid of a ghost, you salt and burn the bones.
Right.
Now, so exorcism in many cases believes that it's only to get it out of the person. And yeah, in this film, it's to try to clean the house. Hence the term, this house is clean.
Right. With the exception that the ghost had actually attached itself to the little girl.
Right.
And then what they had to do is find a way to sever that attachment. And that's the other part of it that is entertaining about this film that I find is that the scientists couldn't clean the house. The preachers couldn't clean the house, but a little shaman woman from a native tribe can clean the house.
Well, and in the second one, it's a shaman man.
Right. But it's never somebody related to a Christian religion, and it's never a scientist that can manage to do it, because all they seem to do is piss them off.
Well,
but it's the natives.
Piss me off too.
But it's the natives that can do it, and I think a lot of that is associated with the fact that the natives don't actually look at everything from at least the way the film portrays it is that yes, these creatures are scary, but they're not to be feared and run away from. They're to be understood and eliminated.
Well, and I think there's also the idea that with these the ghosts, especially in Poltergeist, and I'm not really sure about Ghostbusters, because Ghostbusters they have the line that about when there's no more room in heaven, the ghosts will inhabit the earth, kind of similar to Night of the Living Dead with zombies. But with Poltergeist, they kind of view ghosts in a whole different realm, in that there is no necessarily heaven and hell that they go to. They go to the other side and are searching for a way back.
Yeah. Which is an interesting, like I said, again, it gets away from the Christian concepts or even the Christian-like concepts.
Right.
And goes more for an older concept of, before the idea of God became the most important thing in our minds kind of ideas, which makes sense because native tribes have been around since before the concept of God. So you're going to something much older than what we know today. And I like that. And like you've mentioned Supernatural, and Supernatural has done that with, season by season, they keep going older and older than God.
Right.
To they dealt with a God aspect, and then they found out there was things that were much older than God that had to be dealt with, and you can't deal with them the same way. So,
right.
It makes sense. It's great. And that's one of the things I love the most about this film. And the tequila worm was awesome.
Yes, it was. By the way, have you seen the Family Guy parody of the part of Poltergeist where they throw the ball through and it comes out the other end? And in Family Guy, it comes out of Peter's ass.
I should be able to say yes, but my memory is not working right now on that one.
All right. Well, I'm
going to be looking for it.
All right. Well, since I think that's enough for Poltergeist and Ghostbusters, why don't we go to the news? Do you have any news for us?
Yes, I do have some news for us. All right. The first thing in the news is going to touch really close to home for Jason and I because it comes from back home. Is a newspaper article, more like an advertisement that I received in the community section of my home county newspaper that is basically advertising, and I'm going to open it up real quick so I can actually read what it actually says. A zombie defense class.
Oh, sweet.
The zombie self-defense class that will be held 6 p.m. on Tuesday at such and such a place in Middle Michigan. The class is open to teens in grades 7 through 12, and they will teach self-defense techniques. Permission forms must be completed before attending the event.
So if you're in Middle Michigan and you want to learn to defend yourself against a zombie,
and you're from 7th to 12th grade,
right?
You should sign up for this class, especially if you've taken like any of the survival tests and find out that you're lacking in anything.
Yes.
I'm going to suggest you take this class. So just putting that out there. That's my free advertisement to our Creepercast fanage that might still be in Michigan that are between 7th and 12th grade. I'm kind of hoping there aren't that many. But anyway, yeah, that's me helping out the hometown, and I'm expecting my 10% kickback if the guy who's putting this thing on is listening.
Now the thing with zombie survival though or self-defense is, unless they're teaching the use of guns and bladed weapons, it's going to be difficult, because the whole point of defending yourself against a zombie hand-to-hand is basically you have to avoid two things: their teeth and their nails.
Right. So if they can scratch you or bite you.
Yes.
Too bad for you. Anyway, next thing in the news is you mentioned Ryan. You mentioned Ryan, of some guy who kills people, just a little bit ago. And I saved it for the news to bring this up. Is he is actually this weekend, I believe, or is it next weekend? Next weekend I'm going to go with. Is Screamfest LA.
Oh, yes.
They are actually doing a panel for some guy who kills people. And he appears to be one of the guests of honor at this event. Which is pretty awesome, if you ask me, and I intend to ask him how Screamfest went.
I would love if they could stream that live.
They are talking about posting YouTube videos.
Okay.
This is all information that I've gotten off of Dread Central, but I did find the Screamfest LA 2011 website. So for anybody who is in the Los Angeles area who would like to go see Screamfest LA, Rose McGowan is going to be there.
From Charmed.
Yeah. Let's see. I can't think of anybody else right now. And I don't have the actual list in front of me. But obviously Ryan will be there, who is the most important person to us right now. You hear that, Ryan, right?
Yes, Ryan.
We love you, man. Anyway, it's next weekend, I believe. And it looks like it'd be an awesome time. There are so many of these festivals, dude, that I read about that I keep thinking we need to find some way to where we can
I know. Yeah, well,
show up at these things.
Here's what we can do. If you need to, we have a little button on the Creepercast website to donate to us. So there's two ways to help donate to the podcast. One, you can just click the button and donate whatever you'd like, whether it's $1, 1 cent, $1,000, $1 million. That's up to you. The other way is, if you're going to be going shopping at Amazon, before you go to Amazon, go to the Creepercast and click on the Amazon link, then do your shopping. Everything that you buy, we get a little kickback for, but it doesn't cost you anymore. So that'll help out the podcast.
Yeah, it helps us out as we help you out by continually telling you which movies you should see and which ones you don't, and you probably don't listen to us, so it all works out.
Right.
Let's see. The last thing, obviously the Walking Dead premiere.
Oh, and if you're wondering about that, well, you know what? It was in the podcast this past Sunday, so it should be out on the feed, and you can listen to my live views of The Walking Dead as it was going on.
And you'll be able to hear me next week, because we do this. We're doing this as a weekly event. We talk during commercials and such.
Right. So join us every Sunday during The Walking Dead.
Yes,
go to creepercast.com/live.
And if you pay attention to the feeds, you will also notice that we are also going to be adding another Walking Dead type show where we will basically just sit and actually, discuss what happened on the show,
right.
Recap everything, and discuss our feelings and our future broadcasts. What we think and what we expect, and what we hope to see happen.
Right.
And I think that's all I'm going to go with right now.
All right. Well, one thing that I want to talk about before we get into the haunting is Grimm. Grimm comes out October 28th. And if you were a follower of Grimm on Twitter, you were lucky enough to get a secret passcode to be able to go to NBC.com and watch it right now. And me and Jeff are able to do that because we follow Grimm. And, well, I do. Jeff hasn't quite figured out what Twitter is yet.
Yeah, I was just thinking I need to revamp my Twitter and figure out how to use it.
But so what'd you think? I actually watched it yesterday, and I have to say that I loved it.
I love the concept. I love the idea. Anything that has to do with the Brothers Grimm is going to have my interest. I felt the same way about the movie with Heath Ledger and Matt Damon, even though Matt Damon, but I even found that greatly entertaining because of the way it tied in with the Grimm's fairy tales. And Grimm's fairy tales, dude, are like are really some scary stuff if you actually get a hold of the original translations.
Yes.
They are not as Disney friendly as Disney wants you to think.
Some of the things about the Grimm's fairy tales that's interesting. Yeah, Disney has. Well, here's the thing: is you have the original, because like what the Grimm brothers did is they actually took what were known as peasant stories and wrote them down in a book,
right? And
changed them slightly. So the first episode deals with Little Red Riding Hood and the Big Bad Wolf. And if you actually want or read the original Grimm's fairy tale, first of all, there was no grandmother. There was no lumberjack or whoever that saves her at the end. Basically, Little Red Riding Hood was a young girl going down the forest, runs into a big bad wolf who disguises himself as a regular person. She asks for directions to her grandmother's house. He gives her directions to his lair. She goes there. He eats her. I mean, that's a short story of it.
And basically, and with all of these stories, much like with Hans Christian Andersen type stories, is these fairy tales, which is the reason for fairy tales, is to teach a lesson. Don't ask strangers for directions.
Right. This is the don't talk to strangers one. The Hansel and Gretel die at the end.
Yes, they do.
And that's the idea of don't go off into the woods alone.
These stories were specifically designed to scare children into not doing the things that people do in the stories.
Now, I looked up some of the other stories, and one thing that I found out is, the story of what's it called? Not Snow White, Sleeping Beauty.
Right.
They actually lessened what Sleeping Beauty originally was.
Yes.
There's like the original Sleeping Beauty. There's their version of Sleeping Beauty, which is a little bit more tame. And then there's a Disney version, which everyone loves and knows. The original Sleeping Beauty, I'm going to very, very shorten and bastardize it, but the original Sleeping Beauty is about a girl who, after being born, all the fairies and, or she's a princess or whatever, all the fairies in the land give her gifts, and the 13th fairy, who wasn't invited, curses her that she's going to end up dying by sticking her finger on a thorn. But he did that before the 11th fairy came up, or the 12th fairy came up, and the 12th fairy says, I'm not going to let you die. So what happens is she ends up going through the woods and sticks her thumb on a thorn and falls asleep in the woods. Now, there's no castle. There's no everybody else is asleep. She's asleep in the woods from her thumb being stuck on a thorn for 100 years. At about 100 years after that, there is a prince that comes through the woods, and his wife. Now, if you remember princes, they have to have children. His wife couldn't bear children. So he sees this beautiful sleeping girl in the woods and proceeds to rape her in the woods. Yes.
Of course.
Yes, because that's what you do with sleeping girls in the woods.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now it gets even better, because not only does he rape her, she actually has the children while still sleeping and gives birth 9 months later. Now, right after that, the fairies, seeing that there's a bunch of that there's kids and they need to be nursed to health and stuff, but she's sleeping and can't do it, take care of the kids by basically attaching them to her nipples and letting them nurse. Well, one of the babies, just as the prince comes back through the same woods, not thinking anything of her, as he's coming back through the woods, he sees her on the ground, picks up one of the babies, is holding it, realizing that it's actually his, sets it back down next to the mom, and mistakes her thumb for her nipple and sucks out the thorn, and she wakes up. But because she had his kids, she is now indentured to her, and those are now his kids.
Yes, and for those who don't know about the fantastic and very, she wrote a lot of very sexually explicit type stuff, Anne Rice.
Oh yeah.
And these are really hard books to get a hold of, but she actually put out a trilogy that was based on the Sleeping Beauty story, the original Sleeping Beauty story.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
And they go actually even further with it. I can't remember the actual title of the books, but and she goes even further with it though to say that Sleeping Beauty, once she woke up and found herself indentured to the prince and having to raise his kids, was also a sex slave.
Which is basically what you get out of the story without...
Out of indenturement, yeah.
Yes.
That's what the indenturement implies. But yeah, they're actually very interesting books. Very, very explicit.
Yes, it's not Disney.
Yeah, definitely not Disney. Which is basically what I was getting to by saying that Grimm's Tales are not Disney.
No.
Is because of how Disney has managed to take each story and turn them into such, children friendly.
Yeah, I'll go with that.
By looking at them from their original standpoint, though, like most fairy tales, because most fairy tales they are meant to teach a story and to scare the crap out of you. It's kind of like when your parents tell you don't play in the road because a car's going to come along and smash you. It's more than that though, because it's telling you exactly what that car is going to do, and that car is a great big monster that is just looking for you.
Right? Yeah, he's out to get only you. Now, the TV show Grimm will air Friday, October 28th. On NBC. One thing that I like is that it takes place in Portland or in Oregon, and since I'm from Oregon live in Oregon right now, I like the look and the feel of everything. They actually shoot it right here in Portland, and I was able to meet a couple of the extras from my town that was able to play in it. It stars, I'm going to butcher names, by the way, David Giantoli.
It's Italian. Pretend you're the Godfather and say it.
David Glutentoli.
There you go. Very good.
Da 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 da.
Da da da. Yeah, don't forget that part.
Russell Hornsby, Betsy Tolich, and Silas Weir Mitchell. And Silas, you'll remember from Prison Break. He played
many other things too.
Many other things. Yeah.
Burn Notice and many things that guy's done.
Yes, but Prison Break is the one that I remember him the best because he was the crazy guy.
Yes, and just for everybody who wants to know, I will be putting out. I am writing up a review that will be going to the website. And again, I'll tell you that I love the concept and I love anything that has to do with the Brothers Grimm and actually treating it seriously. Yeah, well, as seriously as you can on NBC, But, I mean, my only complaint at this point is the fact that I thought the acting was a little bit wooden. But then I thought that about everything. I mean, I thought the same thing about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and 3 episodes in, I was hooked.
Yeah, you have to remember the beginning, they don't quite have their characters down.
Right. And yeah, exactly. And I did the same thing with Supernatural. It took me pretty much half the season before I was like, okay, I like the way these guys are. They got some cool personalities and such. So I'm really hoping, and for the sake of NBC, I'm really hoping this series works out.
Right. All right. Why don't we go on to our next topic, which is The Haunting.
The Haunting. Ooh.
All right. The Haunting, 1999.
With Liam Neeson.
There once was a house, a bright, happy home. Something bad happened. Now it sits all alone.
Is this where you're going?
That's Hill House. It's perfect, isn't it? You all suffer from sleep disorders. My job is to find out why.
What's the deal with the Addams Family Mansion? I gotta be honest, I don't get a real strong sleep vibe from this place.
Don't you love it here? This is so twisted.
Calling it an insomnia study allows me to create a highly suggestive environment to observe the dynamics of fear. You don't tell the rats they're actually in a maze.
I just think Dr. Marrow's up to something.
Have you ever kept something to yourself because you were afraid?
All the time. I'm sorry.
You scared the
God, what's happening?
None of this is real.
Oh, it is real.
All right. So The Haunting 1999 is a remake of the classic 1963 movie, The Haunting, about a team of paranormal experts who look into strange occurrences at an ill-fated house. Through the course of the night, some will unravel, some will question, and all will fight for their lives as the house fights back. Eleanor Lance is called to meet at Hill House, i.e. Hell House, for Dr. Morrow's sleeping disorders study, along with 3 other people. The owners of the house tell them that no one will be around and that they won't be able to hear them. The first night, they all sit around and talk. Eleanor tells them about her sleeping disorder is different because she can sleep. It is just that she wakes up because she thinks her dead mom is still living with her. Well, that isn't quite the case now because she is woken one night in the Hill House bedroom by talking children's voices asking her for help. At first, scared by the voices, she learns to avoid them. Later, the group finds out that Dr. Moreau is not using them for sleep disorders, but testing their fears. The fear is the first thought to be faked, but eventually turns into real when loud noises are heard and objects start to move. Now they must try to escape the house before everyone is killed.
Ah.
Okay, I'm gonna say this right now. Actually, before I say it, I'll tell you. It was directed by Jan de Bont. Stars Liam Neeson. Yeah, I suck at names. Stars Liam Neeson, Catherine Zeta-Jones, and Owen Wilson. Okay,
three names that should be household by now.
Yes. I'm gonna say this right now. I hated this movie when I first saw it back in 1999, and I hated it again when I rewatched it.
Yeah, I can't say I have any love for it, but it also did. It came out during this resurgence when everybody suddenly discovered the awesome things they could do with CGI in ghost movies, basically.
Yeah, well, this came out right at about the same time as House on Haunted Hill remake.
Exactly. And the only thing good about the House on Haunted Hill remake was the fact that I can't remember his name, but he looked and acted just like Vincent Price.
Oh yeah.
And they took the supernatural aspect of House on Haunted Hill and actually did something with it, whereas the original, but it also does star like 3 amazing actors. Is part of it is that, again, I watched the whole thing and I kept thinking, is it Darkman? Is it the guy from Star Wars? Is it and then what was with Owen Wilson wearing the Star Trek shirt?
I don't know. He's wearing like this yellow T-shirt that makes him look like he's one of the people from the original Star Trek. Now,
yeah. Then he puts the blue shirt on over top of it.
I know he should have been wearing the red shirt. Because everyone knows that it's the red shirts that die.
Yeah. Yeah. Spoiler. Kind of late. The only thing that I can really say about it is that if there was once a time where I wondered why people thought Catherine Zeta-Jones was hot, I remembered watching this movie.
I know. That was the one thing. I watched this, and I'm like, holy crap, now I remember. This was right about the time. You know what, Catherine Zeta-Jones, though, being hot, it was all from Zorro.
Yeah. No, that's true. But she was hot in this one, too, though.
Oh, yeah. And I think she's still kind of hot in her own way, but nowhere near as much as 1999.
Yeah.
If we could freeze her.
Yeah. Take the 1999 version and just freeze her. Yeah.
Yes.
Make her stick a thorn in her thumb.
Yes.
Then she could still have our kids and.
Oh God! Okay, now we're talking about raping Catherine Zeta-Jones.
I went too far. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it.
We all know what Jeff wants to do tonight.
No.
So is your girlfriend listening right now?
Probably. Busted. Oh, anyway, let's go back to the movie The Haunting.
Okay.
And there's not much we can really say about it. We've already said that we don't like it, so it kind of defeats the purpose to go into what we thought was worth noting.
I will tell you, the sound effects and the music was good. I like that. It helped move the film. I think the worst thing about the film, or two of the worst things, was even with these big name actors, I don't know if it was the script writing or what, but the acting was just over the top melodramatic. And then the CGI wasn't even believable CGI. Like it was like, okay, let's see if we can make the mantle look at you, or let's see if we can make, there wasn't like this, let's use the CGI to actually push the film and to use it for a real purpose. It was, let's just throw in as much cool things as we can, like the bed is going to attack you by all of the sides of the bed coming in, and that was the problem that I had with the film. Is it was more of an exercise in computer graphics than anything.
Yeah, especially when you got the into the last 20 minutes of the movie, it was a CGI exercise from hell.
Oh yeah,
from hell.
In the stairs, the stairs had to have been.
Well, and of course the gargoyle had to move too.
Oh, yeah.
It's like the whole that whole thing was just today we would look at it and go, yeah, you guys really spent a lot of money on this part of it. You had Liam Neeson, and you spent all the money. You spent all the money on CGI. Come on, people.
Now, honestly, I think that they could have done the original one justice had they have gotten rid of the CGI and just shot a solid film, because they had solid actors.
Oh, that much is true. That much is absolutely true. But let's the stuff of note actually is involved in the story itself, though. You have a scientist who brings together people under false pretenses.
Yes.
Which we all know is an important aspect to the horror genre. Is when that's one of the important things. And he's saying that he's doing it because of sleep study. He's really doing it to study their fears. So he brings them into what he figures to be the creepiest house with the most opportunities to scare the crap out of them. And then you take the fact that they also already have sleep problems.
Right.
So through sleep deprivation and everything, this guy is torturing these people mentally. And that is one of the things that I think is the most important aspect of the story itself. So I would have to say that part of the reasons why I think this film failed is because they actually made him a victim by the end of the movie.
Yeah, you know what? That's a good point. I didn't think about that.
And that was one problem that I actually had with it. And because of Liam Neeson is a guy that can fully handle being a villain.
Oh, yeah. In fact, he's done it. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I was thinking, so a supernatural villain, on top of it, or even I'm going to look at some of the other haunting type films, like The Haunting of Emily Rose. The doctors involved in that one knew full well what they were doing.
Right.
And when it affected people in a negative manner, yes, they expected everybody to care for them and hold out for them and help them and everything, but they were still the villains, and they knew their position. You take most of the films in that way. I can't remember a whole lot of them right now.
Well, you take House on Haunted Hill, the one that came out the same year as this one. And the guy that got him there knew that he was a villain.
And he stayed the villain, even though he was a weak villain who was begging for everybody's help in the end.
Yeah.
But he knew damn well that he was out for his own, he was there for his own reasons only.
Right.
But yeah, that's pretty much that's essentially one of my issues with the film, though, is that you have a guy like Liam Neeson, you have a story like that, you should have just let it go and let it develop from there.
Yeah, I think like I say, had they have just shot, and they probably could have saved a lot on budget, getting rid of all of these special effects and computer generated effects, and just let the characters and the actors drive the film, it would have been a lot better. This and this is really the problem with a lot of big name horror films, is that they do just that. That's why if you look at some of the best horror films in history, probably 90% of them are low budget.
Yeah, and that's what makes them worthwhile, though, is that you're counting more on the actors, you're counting more on the story itself to push it along.
Right.
And these days it makes sense.
Right.
then for some reason, because of the technology coming out the way it did, everybody had to capitalize as much as they could on it. It's kind of what's happening with 3D now. I don't want to go into a big, we've tirade about 3D all the time, but we can do the same thing.
Speaking of which, I watched Piranhas on HBO the other day. It wasn't in 3D.
But it's still awesome.
And I have to say, that was one of the funnest movies. Yes, I use the word funnest. That was
actually
one of the
we probably watched it at the same time. I saw it in 3D, and then I saw it later. I saw it last night again, and just the whole time the movie was playing, I'm just like, this is just so awesome. And one of the awesome things about it is it doesn't take itself seriously. It knows full well. It knows full well. It's just messing with the technology and having fun.
That's exactly it, and it was a blast to watch. So I take back everything I said about Piranhas before. In fact, I almost want to watch it in 3D now just so that I could see some of the stuff flying at me because it was just a fun movie. All right. I think that's pretty much our show. We never gave out the phone number or anything, so
you should probably do that.
I should probably do that. The one thing that I do want to say is that, yes, definitely go to the Creepercast website and read Jeff's review when he gets it posted of Grimm. If you're looking to donate, I mean, come on, help us out a little bit. And there's a lot of ways you can help out the podcast, and not just donating. But you can donate. We have a donate button. It goes through PayPal. You can donate to the Creepercast. You can also shop on Amazon by going through the Creepercast. So go to the Creepercast, then go to Amazon, and you'll be helping out the podcast without taking any more money from you. You can also help.
If you pay attention to the side of the screen, in fact, when you're on our website, you'll see an Amazon list of movies. They're movies that we've talked about. So we've made it really easy for you. If the one that you're interested in scrolls by, click on it, boom, it's yours.
Right. You can also go to Amazon.com/store, where we have every movie that we talk about in the in our Creepercast store. So creepercast.com/store. And if nothing else, go to iTunes and leave us a review to let other people know about the Creepercast. Hey, you know what? The more people that come, the better the community, and that's what this is all about. We want the good community interaction.
Oh, definitely.
All
definitely.
Right.
Did you give out the phone number?
Not yet. I'm about to play the trailer or play the end.
Okay.
And then I give it out.
All right. Shameless promotion.
Shameless promotion. So here is the music. All right. Well, like I said, if you want to join us, you can call us at 503-454-6941 to leave us a voicemail. You can also send us an email at thecreepercast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/creepercast and facebook.com/creepercast to talk to us in both places. You can also head to creepercast.com, your one-stop shop for horror, and join us every Sunday at creepercast.com/live for our live Walking Dead podcast. Thanks for joining me, Jeff.
Thanks for joining me, Jason, because this is my show and you're just invited.
Yes.